I was asked for one reason why people are so depressed. And I said, there are several videos on my channel on the channel that I, let's say, support and place content on. There are several videos, I think, already that speak about depression more or less. Unfortunately, many of them are speaking indirectly, so they may not be easily found by title. But I prefer talking about things, creating a certain foundation, and then from that stemming into the subject, so that there is also a foundation for supporting more or less the subject. Now, one reason why, let's say, people would be depressed is, why not think of the whole world, right? When the whole world is in pain, you're thinking that, most people think that in their ignorance they can simply be happy. Well, I've never met, and I assure you, you're not never gonna meet an ignorant who's happy. If you truly meet an ignorant who's happy, just run away from them because they're not far away from a devil spawn. Because being happy in misery, being happy in suffering, that's kind of a certain kind of being. Because no being on this planet, in this universe, would love suffering and pain, right? You may easily call them hell spawns or whatever you may want. But when one's awareness and level of giving up on life have each lowered to such a level where they simply enjoy their pain, those are under humans, those are under beings, you may even call them, because from a functional standpoint, if someone can only perceive and love pain or invest their whole energy into pain, they definitely have a lot of karma to go through, and they're not gonna act too humanish or even animalish necessarily. So when we look at why people might be depressed, why not look at the whole world? See, a lot of people live in places, in cities that have a lot of people, and there's probably tens of millions of people in those cities, but everyone is depressed, and the only reason most people feel depressed is because they are deprived of attention. There are two pillars that I've noted studying the psychological system or whatever people may call it. And that is the idea of being acknowledged for something that you're doing and that of being given attention in general. While being acknowledged is also a kind of attention that tends to be a very simple attention in a way, because being acknowledged for something that you do can differ based on individual and situations, because some people can do their work and they don't necessarily require to be acknowledged from a natural standpoint, not from a neediness standpoint, I'm saying. Some people can do their own things, and even they require some acknowledgement, yes, but it's just that it is very minor. For some people, it is almost an obsession to get uh, the recognition that they desire, that they obsess about in the end, because there are all those people who not only do they create something, but it's almost an obsession for them that whatever they have created needs to have their signature, needs to have something to prove the whole world that it was them who created that, right? Attention starving can be a very crippling problem to most, if not all, people. When it comes to activities, hobbies, or jobs, some people may have two or three jobs. Some people may have several things that they know how to do. Maybe someone is a good plumber. Maybe they're also a good electrician. Maybe they know how to translate from one or two, three, four languages. And maybe they know a few other things. So the point is, the level of acknowledgement is also gonna be based on how much importance they give to those things. How many times have your parents in almost forced you to, do certain things you didn't like, and then you ended up knowing something, but you're not gonna make too much of a fuss out of it, right? Like in my case, my parents took me to swimming lessons. I wasn't much interested in those anyways. My parents took me to Greek lessons. I never cared about those, honestly. I honestly wanted out of those anyways. And I don't even remember much of the Greek that I learned. So I kind of forgot it all. And there were other things, dozens of school contests that I went to. Like when I looked back in time, I found all the diplomas that I had in school, and hell, I actually found out I had two diplomas from a contest in religion, and I was like, when the heck was I actually part of religion contests? And apparently, I was in the third and in the first grade, and like, all right, you learn something every day about yourself. So, when it comes to depression, the whole world in the end is in pain. When you look at big countries, typically in Asia, where there's a lot of populations, big populations, and great natality, do you look at those and you wonder why the heck are those people miserable? Because you have literally people everywhere. So you could easily find whom to speak with or whom to, start making some friendships with. The problem is a lot of people simply aren't taught to socialize. And especially the ones nowadays who start with technology, they feel like trash when it comes to socializing. But the point is, the question is, why would you feel trash? Because the other people also have gone through the same things like you. See, my generation had a certain, let's say, set of parameters that they were grown into. And so we also had our own weaknesses and our own strengths. Your generation also has some. Compared to the previous generations, at least you've been born with technology in your hand, so you should be good at using it. That's a good point in this life. The earlier you learn certain things, the better. And then it's also good that you can help others of your age. It only starts with being nice with some people and you can start some friendships. Yes, you can also attract hideous people, but when you look at big societies, big numbers of people, they seem to be the most depressed because misery is also more prevalent in there. Misery is also prevalent in the opposite spectrum, let's say in Eastern Europe, where the population numbers are much, much lower, and a lot of the places even look desolate. So when you look at those, it's kind of a lack of attention. When you look in the first class of society with big populations, there's too much misery in there. And misery simply spreads. It's not just that you have your own misery. No, 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 no. You stink of misery. Everyone thinks of their own misery. It's just someone's odor may be simply overwhelming for the others. There's a lot of people whose stench of misery simply overwhelms everyone else. And then you have mass media. Every time you turn on mass media, there's always some drama. Your video game definitely has drama. Your video games or whatever many have, there are obviously drama. There is obviously some drama everywhere. Your favorite sports, obviously drama. Politics, there's obviously drama. In your own society, obviously drama. Mainstream media, music or anything mainstream media, well, they specialize in drama because they know drama sells. But drama is exactly like smoking or taking drugs. You give something good out of you, aka, let's say, in the case of drugs and cigarettes and the such, your money, and then you ruin something within you, which is typically your health, your good mood, and the such. Because you're ruining not your body, you're ruining the billions of cells that do all the things they need so that you can experience this life in the best way possible. You're thinking that this physical body is just you, and see, a lot of people, their life is the pain that they know and the physical body, which is one single entity. People simply fail and don't have the awareness to realize that the cells that you have in your body, the billions of cells, they're doing their best to simply allow you to experience this life the way you can. So why not treat them as your children, right? The best principle of generosity, of kindness, of grace, actually, in order to become graceful, or, well, grace being the true path towards divinity, towards creation, is to treat everyone as if they would be your children. Yes, some people are miserable and they're not worthy, many may say, but still, in the end, you can simply discard those and ditch those. A lot of people simply keep attachments to miserable people, hence why they are also suffering. Because when you interact with people, an interaction means interaction. So it is an action that happens in between sides. It is a transaction, right? A transaction means something moves from one side to the other and something else moves from that side to the first, right? That is what you call a transaction. Because when you look at the word transaction, what does it feel like? What is it made of? Well, it is made of trans, which comes from transfer, and action. It is a transfer action, which was shortly named transaction because it is much easier to sound. especially in English, and well, also in these times where everyone needs to talk as much as possible in as short times as possible because people are always busy reaching nowhere. The point is you need shorter words. So transaction was somewhat derived out of a transfer action, right? So, when you talk with miserable people, why do miserable people gossip, for example? Well, they're obsessed with energy. See, misery wants you to stay miserable. It is like a disease which seeks to perpetrate itself, but it is not made by a virus which self replicates, or, well, uses cells to self replicate, yes. It can only replicate by drawing more misery from others. So, in order to draw misery from others, misery seeks to make others miserable so that it can draw from their misery because misery knows it is an energy, right? There are forces which function at a subconscious level. Don't take them as demons or anything, they are just impulses or forces, you may call them whatever. The more miserable you feel, you will see that there are certain tendencies which are enabled by this aspect of you being miserable. So people seek other miserable people because they constantly wish to exchange more energy. When you exchange more energy with others, you put others' misery into yourself. It becomes part of your system. So misery in the end feels great. Why does this happen? See, what you truly are in your body is a piece of life. That is what you are. You may call it a soul, you may call it whatever, it is a piece of life ultimately. It is something beyond physicality, so don't worry too much about it. But life itself does not have a consciousness. Life itself doesn't have, well, it has an awareness of its own, but it is fully unconscious. And it will tend towards that which you guide it. This physical body has a power, tremendous power, which is called the idea to logically think. A discriminatory mind, you may call it, right? This discriminatory mind allows you to take logical decisions. And the problem is, logics is also feeble, because to someone, logics may be this, to someone else, that may be obviously illogical, right? The only logics in the world is the logics of the universe. The universe created everything in a certain set of logics. Whoever cannot perceive that obviously will live by their own logics. And one needs a lot of training to reach and to understand and perceive the logics of the universe because some of them can't be simply understood. They have to just be perceived. So, with this idea, whatever you're doing in life, whatever you're tending towards or excessively repeating, life will also push towards that because it doesn't have an awareness. Life is like a generator, it creates stuff. And similar to it, your mind is the same. Because what you put in your mind, have you noticed that your mind simply constantly creates out of that? Because the mind can only create out of what you put into it. So if you put depression into your mind, it doesn't have an awareness, so it just creates more depression. When you think constantly about drama, well, your mind will create even more drama. You'll become used to drama, so your mind will always create dramatic possibilities out of anything that you want to do in life. Isn't that so? Right? That is why you have a lot of people who constantly worry about everything. It's just that they made their mind used to that. When you make your mind too used to something, your life will also follow that because your life is just pure energy. It is dissipating slowly because, well, you as a piece of life are not dissipating, but the energy forces, the life forces in this physical body of yours are dissipating. Yes? So the life within you will seek to follow that which you logically imply. So if for someone, let's say, committing self-destructive behaviors is what they call logical, their intellect will follow. Yes? Your mind will create, but your intellect will support everything that you think of, that you accept as correct, that you even obsess about, right? Your intellect is an ancient machine that will constantly support everything that you think of or everything that you have accepted. That is why programming people is so easy because when you accept things from people whom you trust, there's typically no boundary, right? Whatever your friends tell or the people whom you truly trust tell you, even a big lie, at first you will probably, or most probably, trust them, right? That is why, this is called a belief, because a belief is accepting something without a necessity for proof. So the mind will simply create more based on what you believe in. Then your intellect will act as a protective shell. That's why a lot of people become hyper defensive. That is why when you look at people who are brainwashed by all sorts of NGOs or societal news broadcast channels and the such, they are hyperly defensive because their intellect protects that piece of knowledge that they have as if it is a part of their own. They can't give up that knowledge because they have grasped it so well, it's almost like giving up a limb, right? So they have accepted it as their own energy, as if it is a limb of their own or a big part of their own. And giving that up is like giving up a leg or something, right? It's gonna make them feel that is a huge pain to give up. That is how narcissists control people, right? That is how they earn a free space in your mind by making you think that losing them is a huge pain, is gonna be a huge loss. But I don't know, my peace of mind is much better than anyone else. So afterwards, your life will tend towards that, right? Your life will tend to follow that which your mind produces more of, and obviously your intellect constructs and protects, right? Your intellect constructs all sorts of possible ideas, and your mind also produces even more of those. And the problem is, the mind creates things which are feeble, so you need to constantly invest even more energy into those, right? Haven't you noticed people who lie a lot? They need to practice those a lot. They need to create even more lies because it becomes an obsession, right? People, when they find an obsession means someone's comfort zone. This is something important that people have to understand. Something becomes your obsession only when it becomes your comfort zone, right? You become obsessive with something only when it gives you a certain sense of comfort. Some people find comfort in doing sports because um, it gives them a certain escape from certain things, from pressures and such. So they will indulge into those instead of just doing those sports consciously. All of these topics that I presented you, they create a certain sense of depression because once you obsess about something, no one else matters. An obsession means you can't even care even about creation, right? When you look at religious fanatics, they don't care about religion. They don't care about creation, especially. They only care about that which they support. And that which they support may not be anything related to their religion in some few cases. In many cases, they take their religion into account more than they would take creation because they simply are unaware of thinking that if creation is absolute, creation doesn't need you as a warrior because creation is beyond this planet, beyond this solar system, beyond this galaxy, right? But a lot of the people who become fanatics in anything, not just religion, they are simply incapable of realizing that there is so much more beyond those. And why is this? Well, this is because of what I call the sniper scope effect, right? When you look through a scope or a binocular or something, you see something very well, but you become oblivious to everything else. This is how people end up. Because once you focus too much on something, you forget all the other things, you forget all the other responsibilities, you forget there are other people. And when you forget about other people and you feel alone, couple that with the idea of, actually having been alone and, suffering from abandonment issues, which are very prevalent in society, well, that leads to some big problems. The biggest problem is people simply lack patience. When you lack patience, that's a big problem because once you get to strike a few deeper conversations with some people, well, that's when you actually start being better in life, becoming better in life. Because when you can strike some conversations with people, well, when you dive deeper into certain problems, that is when you start to actually wake up, right? You see a lot of people, you're in a conversation with your friends, they just talk a lot, they just present everything they do in video games, all this, all that, so many details, they talk so much because they lack attention. And that is a point, because a lot of people have no patience. The more patience you start to reclaim, the more you reclaim your own personal power. So once that happens, you become slowly and surely a better listener. Once you're a better listener in conversations, you are capable of reaching better conclusions about other people. You are capable of reaching a level of understanding about other people where you can let them express certain things. You might even give them some pieces of advice, and they might give you some pieces of advice back. Some people just take, but you can only understand people once you let them talk enough, once you learn enough about them. So hopefully this video raised a bit of awareness. You are appreciated. Take care, enjoy life, and this being said, Ferencan Bor signing out.